Okay.
We've had repairs now, but if you feel something hitting you on the head, it's that.
I'd like to bring this Public Works Committee meeting to order. And the first thing on our agenda is tandem truck purchases. Moved by Darrell McLaughlin and seconded by Chris Olmsted. Be it resolved, the Public Works Committee of the Township of Whitewater Region directs Public Works Manager to purchase 2 demo tandem snowplow trucks from Valley Spring at the agreed price of $204,000 each before taxes. One truck will be funded from the from approved 215 budget. The second truck will be left unfinanced and will be included in the 216 budget. Discussion? Charlene? Oh, sorry.
I guess I understand that staff put forward that it was a non-competitive purchase. Was there any other inquiries whether or not any other trucks were available that were used? Because the tender that did go out was for 1 new vehicle, and now we're purchasing 2 vehicles, and they are used.
No, there was not. The opportunity presented itself with the tendering process that there was 2 demo units available to be purchased, so I brought the information to council. But no, there was no other, the other truck builder or truck provider, ELP, was not contacted to ask if they had any demo units available or not either.
They did not have any demo units available?
I did not contact them.
You did not contact them. So I guess my question is how does 5.1.2, where in the judgment of council goods are judged to be in short supply due to market conditions when we don't know?
With the earliest date available from ELP being November 15th, the date for delivery for these 2 vehicles was August 28th. So that's part of what I went on.
But again, you didn't discuss with any other ones to see if there were 2 used or 1 used demo anywhere else?
Nope, you're right.
My concern is with the tender process then, whether or not the other companies that did tender, whether or not they're going to have a concern with our tender process.
We rejected all the tenders based on either over budget, what our required budget was, or not meeting the spec.
Should we then have not gone out and tendered for what you were looking for then, which was provided, the 2 used vehicles instead of 1 used vehicle?
I saw a chance to bring what I felt was a good price, a good purchase to the council. I brought the information, and that's what I did.
And have these been committed to yet?
No.
Have these been committed to yet?
We sent a letter, and I contacted Valley Spring and said, hang on, we've got to do another step.
So they're aware that it's coming to the meeting tonight?
Yes.
For approval and...
For discussion.
For discussion. Okay.
Mayor Johnson? Did you? Oh, sorry. Darrell McLaughlin, please.
I guess what was brought forward was because their dollar is sinking quickly, the prices are going up. Am I correct on that, Bill?
That was what I was told by Valley Spring, yes.
And I think that was probably one of the reasons the main reason you brought it forward is that we could see a potential here of saving a lot of money by going ahead and doing this, as they had been produced before and were in Canada, I guess, because now what would the cost be to produce one of these trucks, Bill?
I was told from when these trucks were purchased till now, the cost is a 30% increase per unit.
So on 30% on 200,000 is $60,000, is that correct?
Approximately.
Somewhere in that vicinity, times 2 is 120,000 in savings, and that's the reason that it was brought forward. Is that not correct?
That's what, I thought I was doing a good thing, yeah.
I think, and that's when I sat on it, and that's what my thinking was, that we could see a potential here of saving money, and I think it was agreed upon as we sat around the table that there was a potential of saving money, and that's the reason that we acted. At least my thoughts were on why we would act as quick as we did. So that was my reasoning for being in favor, and I'm still in favor of it.
Mayor Johnson? Oh, sorry, Councillor Olmsted.
Yeah, it's, we need to follow the process. All of the processes need to be followed. And what we're doing tonight is one of the processes, to me, is very important. And because these trucks were built probably in 2013, there's definitely going to be a saving. I would personally like to know steel quality and so forth of the truck. I'm not against purchasing them. I want to make that very clear. I'm just want to make sure our process follows great, because it takes a lot of money to bid stuff in this day and age, and people's time and so forth. So we need to respect that quite a bit. And so just so long as we follow the correct process. Like if we had one truck that met the or was in the zone that we were after, it should have been treated with a lot of careful with the letter, or we should have decided to cancel all of them before any further negotiations went in. That can happen here and start here, but it should have happened that way. Or it should happen that way in my. But again, I'm going to make the statement that I'm not allergic to the trucks. Don't get me wrong, and I know what you were doing was for the betterment of the township. Just I'm very adamant about we follow the process that's in place.
Chris Olmsted, please.
Yeah, just to back up during the budget discussions, and I was all for looking at the savings that could potentially be had with looking at purchasing 2 trucks. And we did direct staff to investigate the possibility. Yes, we did. We directed staff to investigate the possibility of 2 trucks, and we can look at the tape as well. But because it was me that suggested it, and it was a combination of whatever savings could be had, whether it be we actually delay, so we take delivery of them now and delay purchasing one from the 2016 budget, or it could be in interest savings, or delayed payment, or there's being a former buyer, there's probably 30 different ways that we could look at it. But we were to investigate looking at purchasing 2 trucks. Now, at budget time, we only budgeted 1 truck, absolutely. But we did direct staff to investigate looking at the possibilities of savings of 2 trucks. I thought we were talking about a $10,000 to $15,000 savings per truck, in my experience. It looks like we're down to that at the end date here, being, I think it was 215 down to 204. But that doesn't take into consideration foreign exchange, which has considerably dropped over the last year. And now we're talking, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 per truck, including foreign exchange, including buying them in tandem. So I think this should be really looked at. We could save the township potentially well over $100,000 here by replacing the fleet now.
Christine? Okay. Charlie? Councillor Jackson?
I guess my only concern is with regards to the process, because and I agree with Councillor Olmsted that there was a lot of discussion with regards to purchasing 2 or purchasing 1, and in the end it was decided that we would just purchase the 1. the tender that did go out did not ask for a second one, in my understanding, and it didn't ask for to see whether or not they would be comparisons. So while that direction may have been discussed, it wasn't followed through. And the other thing is the process has to be followed correctly, and in my opinion, the process was not followed correctly at all in this tender or in the resulting commitment to Valley Truck and Spring.
Mayor Johnson?
I feel that council should officially refuse all tenders that came from the tendering process, and then allow you to go forward, or allow Bill to go forward with this purchase. That way it's official and the process is followed correctly. If everybody agrees for the trucks, that's...
Councillor Olmsted?
Sorry, I think we did send a letter, I might be mistaken, but did we not send a letter to everybody telling them that their tenders weren't accepted?
Yes.
Or maybe it's a different process?
No letters have been issued.
Yeah, didn't come to council as canceling the tender first, though. So we just need, that's just housekeeping, we should do that, just so that the people that tendered it are told that council has decided not to accept them, and then we are going in a different direction, and specify the direction. Because it's only fair, they bid the trucks, right? So that's my suggestion.
Councillor Jackson?
So again, the process has been very much incorrect, and there was no decision in open council that allowed staff to send those letters. So again, my biggest concern is the whole process with regards to the purchasing. I agree that there could be a savings. I agree that it's a good idea. As far as spending an additional $204,000, that has to be an open council. Whether or not you write the check today, you write the check, and the check will be written when the truck is received. Whether you actually finance it today or in 2016 is a different story. You're still writing the check and receiving the goods. If you're not writing the check, you're receiving the goods in 2015, and there should be a motion in open council to do that.
I think we told the staff to do this.
In open council?
Well, in our meeting, we talked about these trucks, and we said, go ahead and get a price bill, and no, it wasn't open, you're right. But we did told them what to do, and they just followed what we told them. They didn't just make this up. We gave them the idea and said, go for it.
And again, it's the process. There's a process of openness in council, and there's a process of being, you have to be open to the public, and that has to be brought to an open council meeting.
Councillor right here.
I was under the understanding it's that closed session, and the reason it was closed is because we were still in negotiations, and it was my understanding that Bill and our Reeve was still going to meet, and there was still a possibility of negotiating, and that's why it was enclosed. And if I'm missing something on that, and going back, I voted in favor of it, and I'll still stand behind it. Thank you.
Justine?
When I had the discussion with Shelley, sorry, I don't remember her last name. She's our municipal advisor.
Iliopoulos. Shelley Iliopoulos was her maiden name.
Oh, that's not the name I have a married name then. That's not the name I have. In any event, she is replacing Stephen Seller, who's gone off on another assignment for a few months. So Shelley is our municipal advisor at Municipal Affairs in Housing in Kingston. And I did have a lengthy conversation with her, and she basically said there's no problem with any of the process up to this point, but there is one step further that has to happen. That this resolution, which is before you right now in open session, has to come at one point, and I quote her, at one point, this motion must come to open session so that on the record, the commitment of financing this truck in the 2016 budget is part of the public record.
concur, has to come to an open session before it's acted upon. It would not have been here if I had not brought it up.
Mayor Johnson?
Okay, we are now have come to the point where we can just vote on the trucks. I think that's the intention of what we're doing tonight. We have now questioned the process, answered the questions of the process, made the request, and now we have read our motion and it's time to vote. I think we have made our points all quite clear.
Councillor McLaughlin?
Well, I have to agree with what the mayor has said, and I don't understand all this because I'm lost, and I've sat in a lot of council meetings, and we've been in closed session with a lot of discussions and a lot of purchasing thoughts, and I could not see in my mind where there was anything wrong, but I'm sorry, I guess I'm maybe not up on it enough, and maybe what we need to do, if this is a problem, we need to have that lady come to council and explain it to us all, because I, as much as Councillor Rager, was under the understanding that we were following things, and as everybody else that night, we were following it totally the way we should be, and we were going to bring it to open session, which we're doing now, and I'm ready to vote on it.
Moved by Chris Olmsted, seconded by Darrell McLaughlin. Be it resolved, the Public Works Committee of the Township of Whitewater Region direct Public Works Manager to purchase 2 demo tandem snowplow trucks from Valley Spring at an agreed price of $204,000 each before taxes. One truck will be funded from the approved 215 budget, and the second truck will be left unfinanced and will be included in the 216 Public Works budget. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, yes, carried. Okay, what next? Using road, assuming road, okay. There's no thing for that. Okay. Assuming roads, bylaw review?
I prepared a bylaw for council, assuming all of the outstanding roads in the village of Beachburg to be assumed by the municipality for council's review. I have nothing additional to add to my report.
Yep. Councillor Olmsted?
Sorry, at the last discussion, I thought, and I may have the name wrong, but I thought there was a Verican Trail or Verican Crescent. That was part of the discussion.
There was Jameson Crescent, which is F, which is just a little portion for housekeeping tie-up. And the other outstanding one is Low Court in Beachburg, but it isn't near completion yet, so that's why it's not included.
Mayor Johnson?
The discussion was the road in the Verican subdivision. Was it Mapleview? Red Maple?
Meadowview.
Yeah, there wasn't one that was named Verican.
Councillor McLaughlin?
Isn't there part of, is it Cardell Street that isn't, there's one portion we're assuming and one portion we are not?
That is correct. The portion that we're not assuming isn't ready yet to be assumed.
Yeah. So it's just one portion of it. Okay.
Councillor Olmsted?
Speaking to that one portion, so just reading the motion, road construction will be completed as per the minimum road standard within the municipality's road maintenance policy. So is it possible that so as we're taking in, or we're voting on Cardell Street tonight, is it possible to include that portion as long as it conforms to will be completed as per the minimum road standard? Is that?
No, because that other portion, there needs to be an amendment to the existing subdivision agreement, which is in the works. And until that is complete, we cannot assume that portion.
Councillor Jackson?
I'd like to thank Hope for bringing a proper report forward with regards to the acceptance of certain lands, and I think you did a great job. Thank you very much.
Okay. Oh, Mayor Johnson.
If Mr. Lavalley brings the paperwork through, then he is eligible for an additional 4 lots, and they can, once he provides the paperwork, they can go ahead at that time with our permission, correct?
Correct, and we have spoken with Mr. Lavalley, and we are all willing to work with him to move forward.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have a motion? Okay. So is that the last? What's next? Okay. Moved by Councillor Olmsted, seconded by Charlene Jackson. Be it resolved, the Public Works Committee of the Township of Whitewater Region recommends the council to the committee to supply non-potable water to a select business within the Whitewater, is that non-potable water? Okay, within Whitewater Region Industrial Park. Permit RMI to hook up into the system that through agreement held the township harmless in the event the system malfunction or this is very confusing. Non-potable water shortage that said hookup will be complete by RMI cost. Okay. So we're giving them bad water, is that what you're saying? Yes, Christine.
So if I could provide a little background here, first off, I would like to thank Doug, Stephen, Andrew, Kenny, and Bill for working together as a team to come up with some solutions and options for council. The Whitewater Industrial Park has sat neglected for many, many years. There was a lot of money put in many years ago, and then everything came to a bit of a standstill. And since we've had Andrew on board as our entrepreneurship development coordinator, there was more of a thrust to re-examine. So many of us trooped out there and were bitten by several mosquitoes and reviewed the state of the pumps and what's in repair. So what we're recommending to you in this report is that we limp along for now without spending considerable monies to make repairs, continue to provide non-potable water, which is not drinking water, it's toilet flushing water for the businesses there, and occasionally a little bit of water for the kiln at Calver Lumber. And that should you decide, as per our strategic plan, to seriously look at hiring an economic development officer in 2016, that person, as a staffer, could then be tasked with looking at all of the various options and coming up with budgets for you to figure out if you want to make a serious financial investment in bringing this park up to speed. Right now, we're providing fire suppression and allowing a handful of businesses to get some water from the limited supply for toilets. However, in light of that, our new development, and I've also included Reeve Miller's action photo of the new industrial park billboard in partnership with Cogeco, which is beautiful. I hope if any of you have driven by and seen it. So there are improvements being made to the park, and it will never be suitable for a business that's a high water user. But there are issues there regarding fire suppression and providing water. So those are our recommendations to you, that for now, we allow businesses who want to hook up to be able to flush their toilets, and we feel that there's capacity in the system to do that. But in terms of any further development when it comes to water in that park, it needs some serious analysis it's big money if you want to go that route.
Discussion? Al Johnson?
There will never be potable water there'll never be potable water in the industrial park unless we get water from, Pembroke, for instance, is we don't want to put up a water treatment plant there. But, what we can provide at a fee is, non-potable water with careful wording on what we're providing them, which they can use for washing trucks or putting at kilns or flushing toilets. And in the past, that was done, and it is in other places, and the system is mainly meant for fire suppression. That's quite true. And if we're going to get anybody in there, we have to be willing to give them some kind of water, and non-potable water, I think, is the only way we can go.
Christine?
It's my understanding, and Bill and the guys who wrote this report could have far more understanding of this than I do, but the system is rickety and unreliable. So we've kind of slapped a few Band-Aids on it for now to be able to continue to provide fire suppression and non-potable water. But that solution won't last us forever. It really needs to be reviewed and examined by someone who is in the economic development field, because to bring options to you from a financial point of view, and then if you've agreed in future to make an investment in the park that's already had a lot of money invested in it in the past, in my opinion, if you want to get tenants in there, it's going to be up to an aggressive economic development officer to go out there and find the people and do a sales job and get the companies into that park. They're not going to turn up on their own.
Constable McLaughlin?
I'm just wondering, Bill, whatever happened with the line that was supposed to come from that 2-inch, is there a 2-inch line that we talked about and I think something that should maybe happen is that any of the new councillors that want to go and have a look at this, because it was an eye-opener for me when I seen it, what was going on. But there is a 2-inch line. I remember you talking about this line for fire hydrant, for fire suppression. Is that correct?
Well, what the 2-inch line is to supply our fire water ponds. It's not to provide fire hydrant pressure. It provides our ponds that we have a reservoir up there, and we have great big fire pumps that can draw water out of those ponds. What the 2-inch line was for when Jamaica was there to give them processed water. Not a lot either. It wasn't a whole lot. But so now we're looking at it to hopefully help maintain our fire ponds when needed.
Is that line come from the fiberboard plant?
It comes from the fiberboard plant line, yes.
To our reservoirs. Is that what you're telling me?
Basically, yeah. And there's a meter on it, and I think when it was running the last time, they used to pay so much to the fiberboard plant in order to provide Jamaica with their non-potable water at that time, but that system's all...
So it's not in place at all anymore?
It's all still there, but the last time the fiberboard plant closed, it kind of all went away, and because at the same time Jamaica had already been gone.
Okay.
But if the 2-inch line will not supply the fire hydrants with...
So it wouldn't supply enough water to the ponds to supply...
It'll provide water to the ponds, yes, but not enough to feed a hydrant just off that one line.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I really think that maybe a tour for people that haven't been there might be appropriate.
Mayor Johnson?
We have a 10-inch line in the ground. It's cast. The last time I saw it was about 6 years ago. It's in pristine shape.
Yeah.
It's in very good shape. And there were some talks with the fiberboard plant for backup fire protection. with 6 to the 10, and I believe Andrew was working on that little bit of a discussion. At the time, RMI, I believe, had come forward, said that they would install the line for free. We probably don't have that available to us anymore, but by the same token, I think the system that's there now will be adequate at the present time.
Absolutely, I feel
Yeah,
well.
I believe that. And that's the thing with getting old, you lose your mind when you're waiting. Darrell, I see what you meant by being at the end there. But
Okay, I'll read this back again. Try and get through it, it's not in Latin. Be it resolved, the Public Works Committee of the Township of Whitewater Region recommends the Council Committee to supply non-potable water to select businesses within the Whitewater Region Industrial Park Committee, RMI, to hook up into the system through the agreement, hold the township harmless in the event the system malfunctions or not on non-potable water shortage, and that the said hookup will be completed by RMI at cost. Will be completed. Phew. That's so confusing. Sorry, Councillor Jackson.
Do we have a draft agreement that's going to go to the RMI? And is that agreement going to come to council for approval for signature? When it does, it will come to council for signature?
Yeah, there isn't, I guess before we went ahead and drafted an agreement, we wanted to see if this is the direction you want to go. So if we're given our marching orders to move forward, then yes, there will be. Steve, will you be looking after that agreement? Yes. Okay. And it will come to council.
Great,
Mayor Johnson.
we also have to make sure that we're held without any responsibility if someone should drink and get sick from the potable water, not just if the system goes down, but if somebody becomes ill from drinking it, it cannot come back on us. That's an additional have to be answered, isn't it?
Is harmless.
Yeah, but okay, I thought the wording said held harmless if there was a problem with the system. But it also needs to specify if somebody drinks the non-potable water and gets sick.
Okay.
Christine?
Well, I guess we'll have to run that agreement by our lawyers to make sure that there's no liability, but the intent was that the description of non-potable water means non-drinking water, in my understanding. But certainly, this could be fraught with peril. We certainly should run it by a legal opinion, Steve, before it comes back to council.
Reeve Miller?
I agree with getting the legal opinion, because a 10-year-old's not going to know what we decided in here, and it'll boil down to a due diligence situation. So it is a legal matter, I think. Thank you.
All in favor? Okay, carried. This is plain English now. Be resolved, the Public Works, moved by Darrell McLaughlin, seconded by Chris Olmsted. Be it resolved, the Public Works Committee of the Township of Whitewater Region recommends the council that it expresses an interest in submitting an OCIF to the Rehabilitation True Love Street in Cobden, and an expression of interest in submitting a SCF to fund our stormwater remediation project on Red Subdivision, Phase 1. Justine?
So I have prepared an additional sheet. It was on your desk. It says 6C4 on top. I apologize that I couldn't get it ready for the council package, but I ran out of time. And there was some new information as well that was released yesterday. So Basically, we've already applied for intake 1 of both of these funds. OSIF was our cast-in-place project on Highway 17. SCF is the sewer plant funding. Intake 2 has now been released, and I'll just go through this so you can compare and contrast and see what staff's recommendation is for projects. So, let's deal with OSIF first. And unfortunately, they have combined the two grants in one document, which has made it very confusing to sift apart, which is why I tried to separate it to make things a little clearer for you, because it took me a while to try and figure it out. So, OSIF is Ontario money. The expression of interest, which is quite simple, is due September 11th, and staff will be able to complete that internally. If it's approved, we now have 30 days to submit the application. That's when we're going to need engineering help, because that's when the details get quite complex. It is a $50 million annual provincial funding pool. Roads, bridges, that should be bridges, water and wastewater projects are eligible. The funding is up to 90%, and that's crucial, and I'll address that in a minute, with a project cap of $2 million. The project completion date must be by December 31st, 2017. Projects may contain multiple components. Projects will be assessed on reducing the risk of future health and safety, environmental protection, emphasis for municipalities that are proactively investing in infrastructure, and the project's economic benefit to the community. The project I'm recommending is True Love Street, which is storm, sanitary sewer, water main, and road resurfacing. It's redoing the entire street, which is an absolute mess. We have already spent $34,000 on engineering by McIntosh Perry to prepare for a funding intake, because we knew this was coming and we wanted to be ready to go. I don't know if that engineering will be an eligible cost or not. Sometimes they let you go back in time and retroactively claim engineering preparation, and sometimes they don't. So until I get further information, nothing in the documentation I've received so far addresses that. Now, the reason why I'm recommending applying for 85% of the project cost and not 90% is that it's been explained to me in the past by many project advisors from various ministries that it's not wise to apply for, when they say up to 90% of a project, and then they're saying municipalities will be given extra consideration for proactively investing in their infrastructure. They want to see you putting some in. They want to see some skin in the game. Al, would you agree with that in your experience? So I'm recommending, and I know they're big numbers. You know, I can't do anything about that. I'm recommending we apply for 85% of the project cost and put in 15% of our own. So that comes to applying for $1,275,000, and our portion would be $225,000, which we would have to find a way to fund out of next year's budget. So that's, shall I, Dave, Chair, shall we deal with questions about OSIF before I move on to the next funding intake?
I just have one question, Christine. Do you have any idea what the breakdown is between the sanitary sewer, the storm, the water main, and the road surface? Do you have that from JP2G at all?
No, I have that from McIntosh Perry.
Oh, McIntosh Perry, thank you.
Yep, I've got a sheet right here with the entire breakdown, which, Danielle, would you be, or Bill, would you copy that? There's a staple in it. The print's very tiny, but we'll get that to you.
Just so that we can understand what portion of that might go on the sewer and water bill, as opposed to what might go on the general tax rate. But I agree that it's an excellent project. It's something that we have been preparing for, and previous council has been dealing with this issue as well as this council, and I think it's a great idea. I just I'd like to know the breakdown between the two, if it's you know, a large amount for sewer and water and storm and road. Thank you.
Councillor Olmsted?
So in your estimation, so this $34,000 study is complete
Yeah.
at the moment? Okay, so in your estimation, we'd be ready, we need an expression of interest by September 11th, and we would have the application ready with the 30 days respected?
Well, we would need to engage McIntosh Perry to help us with the actual application, because there'll be a lot of engineering requirements in there that I won't know anything about. But we are armed and ready to go for the expression of interest with the information that we have. And then if we are approved, we have 30 days to work with the engineers, who I'm sure will be incredibly busy and pulling the midnight oil, because everybody, this is the difficulty, Councillor Olmsted, and I will never understand as long as I live why these artificial, crazy deadlines are put out the way they are by the governments, but this seems to be the way it goes, and sometimes you don't even get a month.
If I may?
Councillor Olmsted?
So I think it's important that we continued looking proactively at projects like this. That I do know that this True Love Street was looked at for a number of years, and there's been funding put out there over the years, but we've never really been ready to apply for the funding, and it's because of issues like this where you've got 30 days to get your game in order to apply for it. So I think this is great in terms of overall planning, and I'd like to see more of it where, as you said, we need some skin in the game. We've spent $34,000, but the end result is Whitewater Region's really going to benefit by us proactively planning like this. So I think it's a job well done.
Mayor Johnson?
Thank you.
I think this is an excellent choice, partly because in our application we can identify that this is one of the streets that is contributing to our infiltration. I believe that will be in our environmental study for our sewer, and that will probably buy us into a very good opportunity and look favorably. The other thing is, no matter what happens here, we're going to have to do this project, and so we already will be earmarking money for it instead of a project where we would have to come up with the money extra regardless. We're going to be putting money towards this at some point, which is, this makes it perfect.
Christine?
Yes, I agree, Mayor Johnson. And I think it won't be much of a stretch to be able to tie this project into the BEI subdivision project as well. All of these things are interwoven. I did send out to all of you that we had a bypass event with a torrential rain last night at the Cobden Sewer Plant. So stormwater is a giant issue, and stormwater on True Love is a big part of that. So with the documentation Bill has just copied for you, you can see, I'll be quiet for a minute. I guess they haven't, there aren't individual totals from each section, but this will give you the breakout.
Mr. Olmsted? Councillor Olmsted?
So in your experiences, are these the typical buckets that the government asks us to hit for the assessment criteria? So that, just for everybody's reading, there reduced risk of future health and safety issue, which we hit, environmental protection, which we hit, municipalities that are proactively investing in infrastructure, and economic benefit to the community. And I think we hit on all four very nicely. But is this typical of grants of
They
this
always
nature?
change a bit, Councillor, depending on the flavor of the political stripe of the day, if you would, both provincially and federally. But right now, from both senior levels of government, I think they realize that right across the country, we are in a giant infrastructure deficit, and the problem has to be addressed. I'm not entirely sure where all this money is coming from, but we're glad it's coming, and if we can take advantage of it, terrific. But I agree with you. We hit from the analysis that I've got, from what I have so far, and this is by no means detailed. This is just get your expression of interest in. We're going to provide you with more details a little later on once I think they're scrambling. And the second expression of interest due date only came out yesterday, and I'm going to refer to that in a moment. So I really think they're scrambling to get the money out as the expression goes.
Councillor Jackson?
I think it's, and again, I think it's a great project. And I think one of the things that we need to identify in the application as well is what impact it's going to have on the water rates and the sewer rates that, you add up. Because I think in those applications, correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't looked at one in not very long ago, but I forget quite easily, is that you have to identify where your fee is coming from. So your money is coming from, so water user rates, sewer user rates, and then the overall. And I think if we identify all of those, that they see that, a big chunk of it is coming from water and sewer, and the remaining is coming from the roads. So it certainly hits home with them that it's hitting them three ways, and not just the overall tax rate. It is, in fact, water and sewer and taxes, but job well done.
Thank you, and that's an excellent point.
Mayor Johnson?
Not trying to be hard on anybody, but I think we all agree this is great. Let's vote on or give direction. Let's move on.
Right on.
Can I give you the lowdown on the second fund first? Because both of these things I rolled into one motion,
Okay.
hopefully to expedite things. So, Small Communities Fund, third, and a third, same as the sewer plant, Ontario Federal Municipal. Expression of interest due September 30th. Again, if we're approved, 30 days. This is $272 million from each of the provinces and the feds over a 10-year period. Projects that qualify. I'm not entirely sure why in something called the Small Communities Fund, they have put the restriction on roads would only qualify if you can verify that there's a 3,000 daily traffic count. We don't have any of those roads, so there's no road project that would work for. And then drinking water, wastewater, transit, broadband, brownfield remediation, airports, rail, and shipping are the other eligibles. However, in the whole wastewater stream, there is a subcategory for stormwater. Completion date, so they're looking for larger projects for this fund, obviously, because they're extending completion to October 31st, 2021. By which point I will hopefully be retired. Projects may contain multiple components. It's the same project assessment criteria. So the provinces and the feds, Councillor Olmsted, to go back to your point, they're all trying to hit these same key factors. The project recommendation from us is the Wren Subdivision Phase 1 Drainage Inflow and Infiltration Stormwater Project, which involves culvert stitches, conveyance ditch restorage, that's the McLeod drain, review of the existing road and intersection cross-section, and a dedicated foundation drain storm sewer. We've spent $20,000 on engineering already from J.L. Richards to be ready again for this funding intake, because we knew it was coming. Total project costs are estimated at $300,000. That may have gone up. This was done last year, but we're in that ballpark. So our third would be $100,000. So we have a little bit more time, which is good, till the end of September to get that expression of interest out the door. So these two projects are rolled together in one motion, which you may wish to separate if you'd rather discuss them and vote on them separately. I hope can accommodate you.
Mr. Jackson?
I guess I just have one question with regards to, you mentioned the Wren drainage. should we be getting any information from the municipal drainage supervisor with regards to how that would be funded? Because that would be, if it affects that drain, any works on that drain will be funded by the users, the property owners of that particular drain. So again, I would suggest, once that comes up, is that the funding, when you divide the funding out, that you identify that some of it, a portion of it, could come from the Wren drain, because it's municipal drain.
Doug, would you have any comment to that? If you do, you have to come up, please.
We've been in discussion with Steve Webster from JP2G on the Wren drain, trying to understand how it's all assessed and stuff like that. And if a portion would be involved, then yes, we would look into it.
Have you contacted the municipal drainage supervisor? I forget his name, down in Toronto area.
We have talked to him already. The part of the Wren drain is that there's a part of the Wren drain that isn't a municipal drain. It goes a little ways, and then all of a sudden it picks up right at the end of where the Wren property starts and goes. So that's a little part of it, because it's not really a municipal drain, a part of it.
So maybe he yeah. Anyways, I would just suggest that you contact him as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Olmsted?
I'm ready to vote on this and move on.
Yep. Okay. I read it again. Be it resolved, the Public Works Committee of the Township of Whitewater Region recommends the council expressed interest in submitting to the OCFIF the rehabilitation of True Love Street in Cobden, and expressed interest in submitting to the SCF Fund for our stormwater remediation project on Red Subdivision Phase 1. All in favor? Okay, carried. So we're done. More? There's more. Be it resolved, the public, moved by Chris Olmsted, seconded by Darrell McLaughlin. Be it resolved, the Public Works Committee of the Township of Whitewater Region recommends the council let Greenwood Paving be awarded the double surface treat DST 15-3 for 2.7 kilometers of magnesium road in the amount of $105,717.15, including tax. Questions? Councillor Olmsted.
Councillor Jackson was ahead of me.
Okay, sorry. Councillor Jackson.
I guess I had asked the treasurer just to comment on where the funding was coming from, and she's indicated, in case anybody didn't look at their emails, is that it's coming from the reserve funds that was associated with the grant settlement project. So that project will not have $168,000 in it for next year. Just so you know, we're going to have to take out more money from the reserves to do grant settlement next year. And I would suggest that we make sure that we can get the grant settlement done in May or June of next year. And whether or not we need a motion for that to happen now, so that Bill can have whatever information he needs ahead of time, so that it doesn't affect the summer busy season of the whitewater rafting companies like we were affected by this year.
I think what we planned was to redo this fall our whole road construction phases to come up with a better plan, so we could get ahead of the schedule. So to see where the money's best spent and actually have a meeting. I think that's what we decided at budget time was, you know, by this fall we'd have a roadmap of where we're going next year, to have that all ready so that, yes, like in January we could be starting to tender the roads. Absolutely.
Okay. Councillor Jackson?
Perfect. And we can discuss that at a later date.
Absolutely.
But I'm ready to vote on this one.
Well, Councillor Olmsted first.
Sorry, just one question. Did we establish a timeline when the work would be done?
When the bid closed, they indicated that August 25th would be their completion date, which is next Wednesday. I don't think they can turn it around quite that quick, but he's ready to go right away. I'm to call him tomorrow morning and tell him if we approved or not, and he was gonna get started at it right away.
Excellent.
Councillor McLaughlin?
I'm just wondering, Bill, that the other section on the Kerr line, if there would be any possibility that some of that could be done at the same time?
We did talk about that, and I did get a price per kilometer.
I've seen that.
At this point, with the weather we've had the last couple of days, there's no way I could have it ready for them to do at the same time. With the storm last night, we had some major road issues today.
Okay, I just, like I say, when they're there, I thought it would be a great idea if they'd even get around that rock cut area. That would be great if it could happen. I think it would be money well spent, and the people would be very happy to have that section done, and we wouldn't have to worry about that section again, and that's the part that's bothering me if we don't proceed.
With the way things are going right now, there's no way I could have it ready for them to chip in time.
The people will be happy enough with what you've done.
Mayor Johnson?
Yeah, we're going to change traffic habits when we pave Magnesium Road, and so we're going to inadvertently rip the rest of that little bad section up. To scarify that, maybe we could get, they could scarify and put a bit of gravel on it. Shouldn't take long. It's only, what, a kilometer?
I think I measured approximately 2 kilometers yesterday. There's 2 sections there, one that's on between the county culvert and Magnesium, and then there's one little extra stretch I noticed it was in really bad shape too, on the other side of the county culvert. So, but
I never looked at it, but is there a possibility we could do some very good coal patching and do one overlay?
Well, we could certainly look at that. That's what we did with the Zion line last year.
If we're earlier, it'll probably stick better. But we've got to, it's got to be, when we patch it, all of the patching has to be below as much as possible, even if we take a grader and touch it off. The high points will just come right back off again, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know for what council feels, but I feel that when we change our traffic patterns, that we got to be prepared for what's going to take place, and if it's really bad and we're going to tear it apart, we got to make the effort, I think.
Councillor Olmsted?
I think I agree, but I think that's going to have to be a separate discussion. That's a long portion of road down there, where I think personally, I think we should vote on this and then bring that as a separate motion.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to read it again. Be it resolved, the Public Works Committee of the Township of Whitewater recommends council that Greenwood Paving be awarded the double surface treat tender DCT 15-3, 2.7 kilometers of Magnesium Road in the amount of $105,717.15, tax included. All in favor? Okay, carried. Did I screw that up too?